Ahead on NewsWatch, the growing battle in the Senate. President Trump's nominee stonewalled by Democrats. So what will it mean for his Supreme Court pick? Plus, a working mom goes from fat to fit in her 40s. Hear how she lost 100 pounds and how she's keeping it off. And meet the world's bravest blues musician. He's black, but boldly sits down to talk with members of the Ku Klux Klan. See how that move is changing hearts. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. Rex Tillerson is now the country's new Secretary of State, sworn in Wednesday night after the Senate finally confirmed him. And Republicans advanced more Trump cabinet nominations despite opposition from Democrats and 2 members of their own party. Gary Lane has more.
The yeas are 56. The nays are 43. The nomination is confirmed.
With that vote, the Senate approved former ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson for Secretary of State. At Tillerson's White House swearing-in ceremony, President Trump explained the task at hand for America's top diplomat.
You understand that the job of our diplomats and the mission of the State Department is to serve the interests of the United States of America, to make our nation safer, our country more prosperous, and our people much more secure.
Tillerson expressed appreciation for the cards, letters, and prayers he's received from many Americans.
As I serve this president, I serve their interest and will always represent the interest of all of the American people at all times.
Attorney General nominee Jeff Sessions received Senate committee confirmation Wednesday. Also confirmed were the nominations of Tom Price for Secretary of Health and Human Services and Steve Mnuchin for Treasury Secretary. Senate Finance Committee rules were suspended, and action moved forward despite a Democratic boycott of the committee vote. The absence of all Democrats surprised the usually reserved chairman Orrin Hatch, who said the tactic meant that Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer was now dictating the tactics of all the Democrats on the committee.
All of them appear ready to leap off whatever cliff he designates, even if it means breaching the good faith that has long been the hallmark of this committee.
Republicans say Democrats are stalling as they try to delay the inevitable. Trump's nominees are expected to be approved because Republicans have a 52-seat majority in the Senate. No Democrat votes are needed. To get them through, nearly all Republicans would have to stand firm. But in the case of Betsy DeVos for Education Secretary, 2 are defecting from party ranks. They're Alaska's Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins of Maine.
I cannot vote to confirm her.
I think that Mrs. DeVos has much to learn about our nation's public schools.
Democrats, many influenced by the powerful national education lobby, grilled DeVos during her confirmation hearing.
In order to clarify, you never attended a public school, K-12 school, did you?
Correct.
And your children did not either, correct?
That's correct.
And you've never taught at a K-12 public school, correct?
I've not, but I've mentored in one.
DeVos is a strong supporter of school choice, charter schools, and vouchers. And Republicans say that's the main reason Democrats and the 2 Republicans oppose her. But if no other Republicans break ranks, Vice President Mike Pence is likely to break a 50-50 tie, so DeVos would be confirmed. Gary Lane, CBN News.
President Trump is clashing with the leaders of 2 U.S. allies, Mexico and Australia. A spokesman for Mexican President Nieto said last Friday's conversation between the 2 was respectful, but transcripts reveal Trump threatened to send troops to, quote, stop the bad hombres down there. Meanwhile, Australia's prime minister is insisting that a deal to resettle rejected Muslim refugees in the U.S. is still on. But the Washington Post says Trump is calling that Obama agreement the, quote, worst deal ever. The White House is gearing up for a full court press to get President Trump's pick for the Supreme Court confirmed. Trump is enlisting help from the most powerful conservative groups in Washington. White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon explains.
Judge Neil Gorsuch is working to win over senators on Capitol Hill. He's being shepherded by an unlikely Trump ally. Former New Hampshire Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte spoke out against Trump during the campaign. Now she's using her contacts on both sides of the aisle to help get the president's Supreme Court pick confirmed. Republicans are singing Gorsuch's praises.
I think the president made an outstanding appointment. We're all
thrilled.
The GOP needs 8 Democrats to gain supermajority approval for Gorsuch and prevent a Democratic filibuster against him. And while Democrat leaders are promising a fight, at least 7 Democrats have said they won't join in a filibuster. President Donald Trump wants to make sure he gets his man on the court, even if that means using what's known as the nuclear option to change the Senate rules and allow Gorsuch to be confirmed with just a simple majority.
I would say, if you can, Mitch, go nuclear, because that would be an absolute shame if a man of this quality was caught up in the web.
The president met with an elite group of conservatives to discuss a battle plan.
We are calling our members to light up the phones in the Senate and to get this nominee through.
Some groups will target Senate Democrats facing tough re-election battles in 2018.
We believe this is an excellent choice, and we're going to do everything within our power to help him win confirmation.
We were the group that sued to overturn Obamacare, and we learned that one judge makes all the difference.
On another front, President Trump kicked off a month-long celebration of Black history at the White House with a listening session. That included an idea for curbing the epidemic of gun violence in Chicago.
I was recently contacted by some of the top gang thugs in Chicago for a sit-down. They reached out to me because they associated me with you. They respect you. They believe in what you're doing. And they want to have a sit-down about lowering that body count. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going into Chicago.
I think it's a great idea because Chicago is totally out of control.
Meanwhile, tough words on Iran from National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. He's pointing to the Islamic Republic's recent ballistic missile launch and attack against a Saudi ship as proof to the international community that the nation's behavior is destabilizing. He also called out the Obama administration for giving Iran a free pass on its reckless behavior.
The Obama administration failed to respond adequately to Tehran's malign actions, including weapons transfers, support for terrorism, and other violations of international norms.
A senior White House official says all options are being considered in response to Iran.
President Trump has severely criticized the various agreements reached between Iran and the Obama administration, as well as the United Nations, as being weak and ineffective. Instead of being thankful to the United States in these agreements, Iran is now feeling emboldened. As of today, we are officially putting Iran on notice.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
President Trump has tweeted a photo of a unique moment at the White House. It's a picture of him pausing to pray with his Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch, along with Vice President Pence and several family members. Many Christian leaders are applauding Trump for picking Judge Gorsuch. We spoke with evangelist Franklin Graham to hear his take on the choice.
This election is not about anything else other it's about the Supreme Court. And who do you trust to nominate the next Supreme Court justice? And this man, certainly, for all of us Christians, we are very, very thankful that President Trump has nominated him, because he will protect religious liberty. And that's what, for me, that's what I'm very concerned about, is just our religious liberty.
Graham also called Gorsuch a true conservative and a great addition. An executive order draft on religious freedom is being considered by the Trump administration. ABC News says it received a copy of the proposed order, which would protect religious rights when they clash with gay rights. It would also prevent some private companies from having to offer contraceptive coverage as part of their health plans. ABC News says it would also pave the way for tax-exempt groups to voice opinions on moral or political issues from a religious perspective without losing their tax-exempt status. The stage is being set for President Trump to follow through on one of his campaign promises to Christians, repealing the Johnson Amendment. The House is taking advantage of the election momentum, introducing not one but 2 bills aimed at removing the government muzzle from pastors once and for all. Abigail Robertson has more on this story.
House GOP members are wasting no time trying to help fulfill one of President Trump's biggest campaign promises to evangelicals, repealing the Johnson Amendment. One bill calls for its full repeal, but another just amends it to restore free speech to charities and houses of worship. Opponents of the Johnson Amendment argue it allows the IRS to bully and intimidate churches. Pastors who've been targeted by the law came to D.C. to share their stories. Houston pastor Hernan Castano says the city's lesbian mayor had his sermons and text messages subpoenaed because of his outspoken stance on issues like gay marriage. Castano was given a short period of time to turn them in, or he would face imprisonment.
It caused a lot of stress on the church members, a lot of questioning, and other pastors just fled in fear because obviously they couldn't believe this was happening in America.
Pastor Castano says the law causes a lot of confusion for clergy, and many do not understand why sharing their interpretation of scriptures could lead to fines or removal of tax-exempt status.
Talking to many pastors, I've seen the intimidation, the fear, and how they would not speak out because they don't want to lose their 501c3 status.
He says each year around election time, warnings and threats are sent to the church, citing the Johnson Amendment.
Everyone should have their full freedom of speech, not partial freedom of speech, which is what we're really happening right now in the pulpits of America.
Congressman Heiss and Senator Langford agree, which is why they introduced legislation in both sides of the House to protect these pastors.
The Free Speech Fairness Act, just as it says, protects those free rights and enables pastors and so forth to deal with political issues without fear of intimidation or retaliation from our government.
Supporters of the Johnson Amendment argue a repeal would allow churches to turn into super PACs. But this bill prohibits nonprofits from contributing to political activities or candidates.
I'm trying to work on within the Senate with Republicans and Democrats alike to say, how can you be opposed to free speech? Now, I understand that there are some individuals that don't like it when churches speak out, but quite frankly, there are churches on the left and on the right politically that they should have the right. We as Americans shouldn't limit speech.
Lawmakers have high hopes 2017 will be the year it goes. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Coming up, changing hearts and minds. See how this blues musician is taking on white supremacists, one person at a time. When it comes to talking about race in America, tensions often run high. Even within the black community, there can be a disagreement on what's the right approach. Caitlin Burke brings us the story of one man who is taking on the issue in his own way, one person at a time.
Playing music comes as naturally as breathing for 58-year-old blues musician Daryl Davis.
Well, I've been playing music professionally full-time since 1980. When I graduated college at the age of 22.
Through music, Davis has formed some unique friendships.
That's Sam Phillips, the man who discovered Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, the boxer Joe Frazier, Dolly Parton.
And also unlikely ones.
And that was the head of the Maryland Ku Klux Klan.
How did you get to be friends with members of the KKK?
I just happened to be, in 1983, country music had made a resurgence in this country. So I was the only black guy in this country band, and consequently, the only black guy in many of the places where we played.
One place was the Silver Dollar Lounge in Frederick, Maryland. After a performance, a white man stopped Davis as he walked off the stage.
And he says, you know, I really like your all's music. And I said, thank you. I shook his hand, and I don't drink, but I went back to his table and I had a cranberry juice with him. And then he makes the remark, when the waitress brings my cranberry juice, he clinks my glass and cheers me. And he says, you know, this is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a black man. Well, now I'm thinking, wow, you know, what's going on here? You know, this guy's really having a night of firsts. And I said, why? And again, I was naive, and I wasn't trying to be facetious. And I said, well, why is that? He stared at the tabletop and didn't answer me. And he had a friend sitting next to him. He goes, tell him. I said, tell me. And finally he says, I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Since age 10, when first confronted with the realities of racism, Davis pondered one question. How can you hate me when you don't know me? His unlikely KKK connection inspired him to start getting answers.
Some years later, I decided I was going to write a book on the Klan.
His research often put him in some dangerous situations, but it also led to an unexpected change in the relationship he shared with certain Klan members.
I would ask them questions, and they would answer the questions, but they wouldn't ask for my opinion. And then over time, you know, I would say, so what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And they would say, well, I think da 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 da. And then they would say, well, what do you think about it, Daryl? Oh, wait a minute. All of a sudden I have value?
Davis says he's convinced 25 members of the Ku Klux Klan to leave the organization simply through friendly conversation.
And when they did so, they gave me their robes and hoods. That's just not done. You know, this uniform represents white supremacy. And you're taking it off and giving it to a black man?
As a new generation of African Americans enter adulthood, they're fighting racism their own way. Rather than trying to change one mind at a time, as Davis has done, this activist generation is using social media to reach the masses. Some in the Black Lives Matter movement have been critical of Davis, saying he's defeating their purpose with his relational approach.
The fact that I would sit down and spend so much time with the enemy when I should be devoting my time to changing the system of white supremacy.
Davis believes this younger generation has the right intent, although their methods can taint the mission.
You need a multi-prong attack from the front, from the side, from the back, through the rear window, whatever. You don't change the system without changing the people behind the system. Okay? That's why I'm sitting down with them. And I've had success.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Baltimore, Maryland.
Up next, this middle-aged woman dropped 100 pounds like a bad habit. How did she do it? Hear her inspiring story and see her amazing results next. Welcome back. If you're an adult who's been overweight all your life, you might think losing weight and getting fit after 40 is impossible. But the woman in our next story says that's just not true because she lost 100 pounds. Lori Johnson talked with her to find out how she did it.
Over the hill? No way. Martha Vancamp looks and feels better now in her 40s than ever before. She lost 100 pounds. This size 20 dress used to be tight on her. Now she's a size 2.
I always felt like there was this fit body stuck in this fat girl's exterior.
This marketing executive, who's also a wife and mother, battled her weight since childhood.
I remember wearing a size 12 in middle school and not really being able to shop in the shops that other girls my age were shopping in. My junior year of college, I literally looked like a balloon that was ready to be popped. I was so overweight.
After endless failed attempts to lose weight, she gave up until...
Hit the 250, hit the age of 40, never exercised, realized something had to change.
And change she did. After doing extensive research on nutrition, she gave up processed foods, also known as convenience or packaged foods. These products line the shelves of the interior aisles of the grocery store and make up the bulk of fast food. Fast and easy processed foods have become the working woman's best friend. But when it comes to our weight, they can be our worst enemy. Processed foods are loaded with ingredients that can pack on the pounds, such as high fructose corn syrup and grains that have been stripped of their goodness. Processed foods contain flavorings and preservatives and other additives that can cause weight gain.
It's a chemical storm. We are so allergic to some of the things that they have put in food that our bodies just blow up.
Martha's body shrank when she stopped eating foods made by big companies and started eating foods she made at home from scratch. Lots of lean protein like turkey, chicken, fish, and egg whites. Also, plenty of vegetables. She really noticed a difference when she replaced processed simple carbohydrates like white bread and pasta with complex carbs like oats, sweet potatoes, and beans. She doesn't skimp on healthy fats either, like nuts, avocados, and coconut oil.
After like 2 or 3 days of eating the right way, oh my gosh, your energy is incredible.
Martha admits she has cut back on calories, especially from sugar, but says unlike the low-calorie diets she tried before, this one is easy to stick to because these satisfying foods make her feel full longer.
I was fat because I didn't understand the science of food.
Martha says in order to stabilize her blood sugar, which minimizes cravings, she has to eat one of her small home-cooked meals every 3 hours. Not so easy for a working mom, but she figured out a way to do it. On the weekend, she cooks her upcoming week's meals and pops them in the freezer. Then each morning before heading off to work, she grabs what she'll need that day.
It does take a couple weeks to get on autopilot, but then it's totally worth it.
Martha says eating right is the main reason she lost weight, but says exercise does play a big part in keeping her fit and healthy.
I remember I couldn't even do 3 air squats when I started.
In addition to doing cardio, Martha boosts her metabolism by lifting weights because muscle burns more calories than fat, even at rest. So if you've always been heavy, hate exercise, and think you're over the hill, Martha Vancamp is living proof that avoiding eating from a box or the drive-thru and embracing a clean diet rich in whole foods can help you lose weight and feel great at any age. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Actor Terry Crews will be hosting the 25th Annual Movie Guide Awards. It's the largest faith and values award show in the country. The gala honors directors, producers, and writers of family-friendly films and TV programming for this year. Movie Guide tapped the Brooklyn Nine-Nine star for his formidable strength in comedy. Movie Guide founder Dr. Ted Baer said, quote, Terry's commitment to family, both on and off the screen, makes him the perfect host for a movie award show. The 1-hour TV special will air Easter Sunday. Great to see family-friendly films in Hollywood and in the media. That's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.